The founding and formative years of Mandan on History Talk with your host, Randy Hoffman, where we explore the people, places, and events that shaped our community. History Talk streams exclusively Thursdays at 10 a.m. on KFYR+. The city that became Mandan was originally a work camp established to continue railroad construction, including linking with the Western Line and completing the Missouri River Bridge. The Panic of 1873 had forced all construction to halt for several years. By this time, track was laid to about 5 miles west of the Missouri River, almost to the Heart River, and efforts were well underway to recruit around 500 men for grading the westward line and constructing a bridge to span the Missouri. General laborers were paid between $1.25 and $1.50 per day, and bridge contractors starting around $3 a day. By December 1878, the work camp site was chosen as the new county seat for Morton County and christened Mandan, named for the Native American tribe who once occupied the land. Several other names were considered, including simply Morton. Evidently, the local postmaster even attempted to name the town after himself. Prior to Mandan, Morton's county seat was Lincoln Township, a civilian camp located just north of Fort Abraham Lincoln, near where the railroad was originally expected to cross the river. Mandan received a new Morton County courthouse in 1885, which was destroyed by fire in 1941. The former county courthouse, located in Lincoln Township, was repurposed into a school. As Mandan grew, Lincoln faded to obscurity. Mandan was formally organized as a town in 1879, which is considered the city's founding year. Relocating the post office into the town sanctioned it as official. Mandan's population was already estimated at about 230 people, nearly all railroad workers, and was rapidly increasing as prospectors sought to benefit from what was expected to become another major railroad hub, some of whom were the same people who sought fortune with the founding of Bismarck a few years earlier. P.J. Callahan's Mandan House was likely the first business within city limits, a 24 by 56-foot motel and restaurant for the rail workers. The first framed building erected in present-day Mandan was a 2-story office for the chief engineer. Lots were first put up for sale and legally transferable in March 1879, by which time 150 lots were already reserved and permits for 40 buildings approved. Pat Burns' restaurant may have been the first private building permit. In April, the official plat was filed and a town site organization established. Edmund Hackett, Bismarck's first appointed mayor, was elected president of the association, a close equivalent to mayor. That same month saw the first baby born in Mandan, to Mr. and Mrs. Milan Harmon. The Mandan Criterion was the city's first official newspaper. It published its first edition on May 24th. It remained Morton County's official newspaper until the Mandan Pioneer was selected for this honor in January 1882, 3 months after its first edition. For decades, Mandan was a completely independent city from Bismarck. These twin cities didn't complement each other in the same way they do today. Transportation between them wasn't easy, nor was there strong motivation to do so. You could hop on a quick train ride across the river, but that cost money. The Liberty Memorial Bridge opened in 1922, but most people still didn't own vehicles at that time. As a result, Mandan boasted a strong economy and commerce independent of that of Bismarck. In fact, Mandan had a national department store, J.C. Penney, before Bismarck did by 2 years, opening in 1920. By comparison, Woolworth was Bismarck's first national department store, opening in 1922. Mandan very much served as a railroad hub to the west, and Mandan was more of a railroad town than Bismarck had become. In many ways, Mandan was the chief city west of the river, and Bismarck east to Fargo. As the bridge's inevitable completion improved access across the river, 1881 would be a momentous year for Mandan. That was the year Mandan was incorporated as a city on February 24th. Both its first bank and drugstore became established that year. Northern Pacific dedicated Mandan's first permanent train depot the following year, in 1882. The beautiful 2-story depot served dutifully for decades, until being replaced in 1930. First National Bank of Mandan became established in 1881. It was the first bank established west of the Missouri River in Dakota Territory and would remain Mandan's only bank for years. A wooden building was erected by the end of that year, near the northwest corner of Front Street and Stark Avenue, today's Main Street and Collins Avenue. A two-story brick building replaced it in 1906. The building was expanded in 1911 and 1927. And remodeled with a Greek Revival style in 1948. The bank relocated to 111 2nd Avenue Northwest in 1963 on the former site of Redmond Ford Mercury. The building was greatly expanded in 1979. The bank's successor, Wells Fargo, still operates at that location. The 1906 bank building remains today, mostly housing professional officers, as well as Cappuccino on Collins. Taylor Drug, Mandan's first drugstore, became established inside the First National Bank of Mandan building, preceding the bank's opening by 1 month. George and Ferdinand Bingenheimer opened the drugstore with backing from D.R. Taylor, who was a Northern Pacific superintendent in charge of constructing the railroad bridge. By 1883, Taylor Drug relocated from the bank into the People's Hotel. Taylor eventually bought out the Bingenheimer brothers and operated it until his death in 1924. Longtime pharmacist Albert E. Krejci acquired Taylor Drug and operated it until his death in 1951. Cliff File then acquired the drugstore. Taylor Drug closed in 1990. That same year, Thrifty White Drug acquired the firm's assets. Mike Kraft then established Butcher Block Meats inside the former Taylor Drug location on Main Street. George Peoples commenced construction of his namesake hotel on the northeast corner of Main Street and Stark Avenue, today's Collins Avenue, in 1882. The brick three-story structure cost a little more than $23,000 to build. Sources vary on if it opened that same year or in 1883. Pat McGinley later acquired the hotel and renamed it the McGinley. It sold again in 1908. It was during this ownership that it became known as Hotel Mandan. The Romers purchased it in 1916 and held ownership until at least the late 1920s. It ceased operating as a hotel in 1968, and the building was demolished in April 2007. Liberty Square Apartments now occupies the site. The State Bank of Morton County, Mandan's third bank, established in January 1892. Its 22 by 30 foot headquarters became erected on the northeast corner of Main Street and First Avenue Northwest. It still stands today, although its glory days are well behind it. Farmers Equity State Bank of Mandan acquired the bank in 1920. Mandan education classes were once held in a log cabin owned by J.J. Mitchell. Mandan built its first dedicated schoolhouse in 1882. When it exceeded capacity, the city began utilizing space in the Benton building for additional classrooms until 1890, when Mandan converted a private residence into its second dedicated schoolhouse on the west end near Main Street and Mitchell Avenue, today's 8th Avenue Northwest. The new schoolhouse contained one classroom on each of its two levels. First and second grades were on the main level, third through fifth grades above. That was a look at Mandan's founding and its formative years. We'll take a look at other important Mandan topics in future episodes, including St. Joseph Church, Mandan's prominent Lewis and Clark Hotel, and a deeper look at Mandan education, such as the Central School. I invite you to check out my 2 Bismarck history books. They are available to purchase on Amazon and select local bookstores. Copies are also available at the Bismarck Public Library. Visit bismarckbook.com for more information. Is there a local history topic you'd like to be featured? Email suggestions to historytalk@kfyrtv.com.